Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael. I am so happy to be here with you. We are going to spend some time talking about a book and an idea that I think can be really valuable in our lives as we try to create beloved communities together. So we're going to talk today about a book called A Pattern Language. A show of hands, how many people have ever heard of this book? Great. How many people actually own this book? Joel owns it. How many people have opened the book? All right, fantastic. And I asked that not to give Joel a hard time, but because time and time again, as I talk to community activists and people who are working on community-minded projects, we'll be on a Zoom and I'll talk about a pattern language and they'll reach to their bookshelf and they have it. And they're like, I've never opened it. It is an 1,100-page book, which we will talk about a little bit more to get you grounded, but I now refer to it as your favorite activist's favorite doorstop, because it's just sitting there, all right? And it's an incredible resource. So what I want to do, knowing the BarCamp format, we're going to do a cold open, and we're just going to talk about one pattern for a second, and I'm going to do that in the next couple minutes, and you can decide if you are in the right place. And if you are really excited about what you can see, you can text somebody who's in the other room and tell them to get over here, but we'll start like this. So the pattern language book contains 253 patterns. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But right now, we're just going to look at one of them, which is called Paths and Goals. And the idea in Paths and Goals is to convey the sense that walking, human walking, is a more complex activity than we usually think. And the reason for that is when we are walking from one place to another, we almost never walk in a straight line toward exactly where we're going. In practice, what we do is we walk toward intermediate milestones. But as these pictures from the pattern illustrate, you don't actually go all the way to the thing. You walk toward an intermediate milestone until you see the next one, and then you turn and walk toward that. So what that means is, as you're going around, you're sort of like toward a thing, then toward another thing, then toward another thing. In architecture, there's this concept of a terminating vista. So something that you're looking at in the distance that you can walk toward. And Paths and Goals is about how we walk through the world, and then by implication, how we organize the physical world to help support this pattern. So let's put this in Philly terms. If you were starting at Penn's Landing and you were going to walk toward the art museum, what you would probably do is walk toward City Hall, right? It's a big, obvious landmark. You can't see the art museum from Penn's Landing, but you can see City Hall just fine. So if you walk toward City Hall, eventually you will get to the beginnings of the parkway and you will turn and say, okay, that's actually where I want to go. This is, as I said, one of many patterns that are in this book that are meant to help us create thriving communities. The pattern language book was written by a team of architects and anthropologists who looked at cultures around the world to see recurring patterns of thriving community, from nation states all the way down to the way you construct your house. So what we're going to do today is, first off, we're going to talk a little bit about how you use these patterns, we'll get it grounded in them, and we'll talk about how you can use them to sort of read the landscape around you, the community environment around you, and make sense of it. We're also going to reflect on particular patterns that we can see that shape our homes and communities. So what's already happening around us that we love and is giving us a sense of home. And then finally, we're going to think about new patterns that exist in the world, or things that might be in the book, but maybe you haven't seen yet, that you might want to intentionally work on bringing into being. So a little bit about me. My name is Michael. My pronouns are he, they. I am a neurospicy human being, gifted and autistic. My mom took so much Tylenol when she was pregnant with me. I am a Quaker. I belong to Green Street Meeting. I am a father to 3 young adult kids who live in Fairmount. I myself am a once and future West Philly resident. I used to live 2 doors down from Clark Park, and it was an amazing thing. And I have also been a seminary student. I went to Pittsburgh Theological Seminary, which is where Mr. Rogers went. And some people might know that he was an ordained Presbyterian minister who convinced the church to make the TV show his assignment. That place has a really incredible legacy thanks to that association. So I did a certificate program there, and I'm going back next year to start a doctoral program in creative writing and public theology. My day job is business-to-business sales consulting, and I will talk briefly about this. I was the COO of a $550 million sales organization in an enterprise software company. We went from being the worst sales region in the world to the best 2 years in a row after 18 months of work. And I will say to this room, if you are anywhere near a business-to-business sales organization and it gives you the ick, or you have to interact with it and you don't like it, or maybe you're in a role in your professional life where you need to be doing selling and you're struggling to get into it, if you're in professional services or anything in technology, there is a way to do this with integrity and to get results, and that is what I help people do. So if that is of interest to you, I would welcome that conversation, but that is not where we're going to spend our time for the next 37 minutes. My passion project is a podcast, because of course, and that podcast is called Neighborful Station. It is Mr. Rogers for grown-ups. Every Saturday, a 10-minute episode comes out. It is a guided meditation that is set in a small town in western Pennsylvania. In every episode, you are the main character. It's told in the second person. It happens in the present tense. All 5 senses are involved. 3 times in every episode, in the natural flow of the story, you are invited to pause and take a breath. And 3 times in every episode, you are invited into community and you say yes. In the session that was in this room in the last hour with Pam Selly, we talked about touching grass and trying to find ways to use our technology to be more real in the world. This is my little contribution to that effort. I'm going to show that QR code for 2 seconds, but it's also on the handout. So you don't need to, I'm not going to show that for long enough to be satisfying to scan, but you can get it off the handout. What unifies the day job and the passion project for me is that I understand my calling to be inviting people into their own potential. And I do that with my gifts of deep listening, connection. Because my mom took all that Tylenol, I'm great at pattern recognition and stubborn hope. I am one of the most stubbornly optimistic people you will ever meet, and the stubbornness is central to that. It has to be in the world that we're in right now. So I want to take a few seconds right now. I will keep the time, and I'm going to ask us for 15 seconds of silence. And in that time, I want you to reflect on a gift of yours. And my one request of you as we do this is, do it sincerely. There are lots of ways that you could give a flippant answer, and there will be time for us to share. But I ask you to inquire in your own heart for a second about what do you know to be one of your own gifts. And let's go ahead and take 15 seconds. Thank you, friends. Who has a gift that they would like to share in this space? Yes, please. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Did I see? Yeah.
I'm good at math.
You're good at math. All right. What kind of math?
Mostly like elementary through college, but not graduate level.
Okay. I was bracing for I'm awesome at Fourier transforms. That's my jam. Okay. Yes.
Seeing people in a way that inspires them to see their own greatness.
Awesome. Love it. Yes, ma'am.
Crazily curious. I was a 3-pound preemie, so I'm really nosy.
That is an incredible origin story. Who else? Anybody else want to share? Yeah. Organizing anything. Perfect. All right. One more? One more. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a pretty great one. Thank you. Thank you all. So let's talk a little bit more about a pattern language. It was published in August of 1977. I was 9 months old. My parents took me to see A New Hope in the theater. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't really remember it either. But an interesting thing about this book is that it has never been out of print in that whole time. And if you go online and look it up, what you will see is that there's not a lot of difference in price between the new copies and the used copies, which is unusual in the used book market, right? A pattern language is like kind of this hidden in plain sight perennial classic. It is used in the architecture program here at Penn and at a lot of other places, so it's required reading for first-year architecture students. It has also had a life of its own as an influence in other domains. So if you work in software development, software design or development, and you have this language of software patterns, it came from here. The book, as I mentioned, is 253 patterns, and they are each laid out as essays, which are about 5 or 6 pages long. We're looking at one of them from the middle of the book, which is called Bed Cluster. And one of the things I want to just highlight to you is every pattern is numbered, and the entire book is a hypertext. So every pattern has antecedent patterns that link to it, and then it links onward to other ones. So the point of the book is not to read it straight through, but to look at something that catches your eye and then bounce around to see, okay, what would I do to set this up? And then what does this unlock? It's a really interesting thing to consider that they published hypertext in 1977. We looked in the beginning at paths and goals. This is a graph of the patterns that go into and out of that one. So 120 is paths and goals. 119 and 121 are linked to it, which is actually unusual. It's unusual in the book for the ones right before and after to be linked. But you can see that there are 6 other constituent patterns before it, and then 7 more after it, not counting the ones that are immediately before or after. On the resource thing, for those who want to go deep on this, there is a GitHub project which uses Python and GraphML to map the entire graph of all 253 patterns. And you can download the materials and play around with that. I want to switch over for a second. There is actually a resource online where you can access all of the patterns for free. And all of the hyperlinking is working. One of my favorite things about the site, this is just somebody set this up. It's not affiliated with the book. It's frames. And every time I go to the site, I'm like, oh my God, it's frames. Like, what a throwback. But I thought because we're here at the University of Pennsylvania that it would be fitting to take a look at pattern 43, which is University as Marketplace. Spoiler alert, Penn doesn't quite run like this. But University as Marketplace builds on a previous pattern, network of learning, which establishes that learning is best done as a decentralized community activity, and that you can have focal points and nuclei of that, but that really the people in the community should be responsible for educating each other, and that there should be mechanisms in place to do that. So the University as Marketplace is kind of like, if you were to imagine BarCamp as a 4-year degree, right? We're each going to show up each semester and we're going to offer courses, and maybe there's some structure in place to make sure that there's like some requirements that get covered off, like people need to study math, clearly. We need a math class every semester, but like University as Marketplace is one way of doing higher education that sort of instantiates a network of learning. And then when we go down here at the bottom, so this is all the text, it's very formulaic in a good way, the way that the patterns work. It'll lay out a problem statement, and then it will sort of like explore that problem statement, and then it comes to this solution statement that always begins with therefore. Therefore, we should do this. They have these amazing, like, black and white line art drawings that are throughout the book. And then you can see that there are all these, like, successor patterns that are baked into it. So give the university a promenade as its central crossroads. Around the crossroads, building complex, pedestrian street, quiet backs, housing in between. As for the classes, let them follow the model of master and apprentice, right? So this is a really rich collection of resources that is available to us. And what we're going to do with the rest of our time is think about how to use it in the world. The book is meant to be used. It is not a book of theory. It is 100% a book of practice. So what I would like to do now is pair you up with neighbors. And I know that you don't know the patterns in the book, and that's okay. We don't need to know them for this time together. But what I would like you to do, take 1 minute each, turn to a neighbor, and just talk about, here's something that I love about my home, my neighborhood, my community, and why. And then we'll come back together in a couple minutes and we'll do some shares. So find a neighbor, or you can do it in threes. If you're super antisocial, just do it within yourself. That's fine. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask people to share what your neighbor said. So, can somebody tell me what their neighbor said? Yes?
Very walkable, everything in an easy reach, both fun-wise and work-wise. The last 3 or 4 jobs, all of them are walkable.
Beautiful. Okay, yes?
Yeah, actually the opposite of that. So,
Oh.
so actually, like, not very much in the local vicinity, so it really helps to focus on like the home and,
Yeah.
and family.
Right. Maybe like a farmstead would be not necessarily your situation, but like a kind of situation like that, maybe. Yes?
The green space that is near her house, and then it's also like a good place to socialize with other people.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yes?
So we talked more about like in the house, so having everything be comfortable, either because it was put away and organized, or because it was in the place that felt natural.
Okay. A place for everything, everything in its place. Yeah. Joel?
So 3 words, I think most people here will understand the why. Reading terminal market.
Oh. Hold that thought for a minute. Yeah. Over here.
The neighborhood was nice and quiet.
Okay. Cool. What else? 1 more? 2 more? Yes.
Sure. My neighbor is not as excited about her current circumstances because she's moving from over and she's very excited about it.
All right. And did I see a hand? Yeah.
Community within a community. That's fair to say.
Okay. Cool. So my point here is, before we've even learned all the details of the patterns, we come to this conversation with an innate sense of what works, right? And that's kind of like one of the things that is a real gift about the book, is that it puts to words a lot of things that we know instinctively. So 2 examples I'll talk about real quick. The first one is, there's a pattern called light on 2 sides of every room. And when you go through this pattern, you're like, oh, yeah, absolutely, right? Like, rooms just feel better when there is natural light coming from 2 sides. And we live in a city of row homes, right? So that's not always possible. And it's not always going to be a thing that's available to us, but they kind of go through like, this is a thing that really makes the space more comfortable. The other one that really baked my noodle was, there's a discussion of like porches and outdoor space attached to a house. And they go through this whole thing where they say, you need to think about those spaces in increments of 6 feet. And it needs to be 6 feet, like a porch needs to be at least 6 feet deep, so that 2 people can sit across from each other comfortably and have a conversation. There's room in 6 feet for there to be a little table for you to put something down, right? Lots of times we'll see houses, the infill construction in the city. I have a friend who calls those IKEA houses, where there might be like a little balcony or a porch that's like 3 feet deep, right? And nobody ever uses it. And the reason you're not using it is that it's not deep enough to like comfortably accommodate us as humans. And that transcends culture, right? So obviously, this entire session is an endorsement of a pattern language. I encourage you to spend more time with it and get to know it. But really, like the most fun about working with this book is that you can just jump into it and start finding things that really like resonate with you, and you can have this experience of getting validated for all the things that you've just learned as a human existing in the world. They're going to be like yes to this and yes to that, and it's just super fun. So, rounding the clubhouse turn, let's take a little bit of time and talk about what else is possible. So we are a group of people who have come together today because we are kind of self-starters when it comes to community. You don't come to BarCamp to be a shrinking violet or a wallflower. And I think what's most exciting to me in the world of this book is that there's space to identify other things beyond what's there. And I also think it's 48 years after the book has been published, we have learned more in that time. So as practitioners who are in the world thinking about patterns, we have the opportunity to identify them ourselves, to discover new ones that didn't make it into the book, right? This book is like a foundational postmodern text, and like one of the tenets of postmodernism is like this is emergent, right? Like we are constantly co-creating new things as we develop more understanding. And so the best way to honor the spirit of the book is to take it as a jumping off point. Now, I want to talk about a couple of patterns from Philadelphia that I love, and I imagine many of us do as well. And these are three things that are not in a pattern language, but I think we could agree are patterns of community that are durable and workable and meaningful to people, right? The first one is lending libraries. So we have public libraries for books. Those libraries have expanded in their own scope beautifully. I'm living out in the suburbs right now. One of the local libraries has like backyard games that you can check out. So if you're having like a cookout, you can just go borrow the backyard games. This is the West Philly Tool Library, an incredible resource. I know they're going through some transition right now, and I'm hopeful that they will come through all of that beautifully. The second thing is block parties. We are a city of block parties. There's some incredible GIS mapping that's available online that just sort of lays out where all of that happens. Side note, one of my dream projects for the next couple of years is to create a Philly heat map that highlights all of these pro-social, pro-community resources, because I think like the 4500 block of Osage Avenue in West Philly does 5 block parties a year because that's how many permits you can get. Right? If you could get 10, they would do 10, right? I think that's a pretty good marker, a pretty good signal of this is a great neighborhood to live in. And I am not a super technical person. I was a professional writing major in college. And so I can write the words, but not the code so much. And I would love to partner with people to create this map of like, where are the neighborhood gardens? Where are the block parties? Where are all the things that we know make our neighborhoods great? And let's look at that in one place, not only so we can see where it would be cool to live, but so we can understand as a community where people need support. And we can look at where can we invest our time and our effort and our energy and our money to bring this entire city along in this journey of creating community and co-create it all together. And in that spirit, the third thing is a project, the Germantown Community Fridges. How many people here know of a community fridge in their community, in their neighborhood or community? Cool. There's a bunch of them around. There's actually a map. It's called Freedge, FREEDGE.org, that has a worldwide map of community fridges, and it's pretty good for the Philadelphia area. But those are three things that don't exist in the book, but I would argue are 100% patterns that make Philly an incredible place to live. So the last thing that we're going to do here, we're going to make the room noisy again, and we're going to allow a little bit more time so that you can think about this. But I want you to work with a neighbor again. Can be the same person or people, could be somebody different. If you're feeling really antisocial and you just want to bring it in for yourself. What is one pattern in the spirit of this book that you can think of that you would like to see happening in our community or see more of it? So, what is something that maybe exists a little bit or doesn't exist yet in your neighborhood, but you would like to see it happen? What can we do together? So let's go ahead and take 5 minutes and do neighbor conversations again. And we're looking for what are patterns that we would like to see more of in Philadelphia. All right, go. All right, we're going to represent our neighbors again. So, what do we need more of in this community, or what do we need that we don't have yet? What patterns do we want to see in this world? Yes.
Loop for mass transit to connect kind of disaggregate routes.
Yes. All the mass transit. And that's actually an interesting place. What you'll see in the book, it is a product of its time in that area. What you'll see in the book is that the ideas about mass transit are maybe not workable for a place like Philadelphia. There's some discussion of like shuttle buses or something, but like much more robust public transit infrastructure, fully funded. Could we dream? Could we dream? Funded at all, yes. Like, let's fix the crazy town structure and all of that. Yes, who else? Yes, please.
So we kind of both settled on this idea of like hacker spaces and maker spaces. There's a lot of pop-up places here, and there's a very entrepreneurial spirit about it. And like that's really cool. We want people to start new businesses, and we want to do that. But really, you kind of lose something when it's not about just the art of making. And the thing that Ellen was talking a lot about is that she does a lot of polymer clay. Thank you. A lot of polymer clay work, and how it's interesting how when you see what another artist is doing with their work, that it allows you to also evolve your understanding of polymer clay. The thing that's most interesting is that you don't learn just by working with the clay. You learn by working with other people, and that's the thing that brings these things together. And I related that to something I recently found, which is there's an artist collective that's a little bit south of Spring Garden, and I stumbled upon them. And there's a maker space in there too, where these hackers, these hardware hackers, have kind of come in and they've kind of blended in with this. And so you can go to this one place and you can see on one floor this massive art gallery. On this other floor, everyone with their doors open, doing painting and doing all kinds of stuff, and then just walk around a little bit, and there's like people picking locks, figuring out how to like fly drones around, actual networking. And the whole thing, the thing that's best about this space is that it's not commercial. It's just community. It's a hacker space which is rooted in bringing people together, not to make money, but to find each other, and it's transformative.
That's great, thank you. And I think one of my very favorite things about Philadelphia is like around every corner, on every block, something magical is happening, right? Like you may not know it's there, you may not see all of it or even a fraction of it, but like this city is buzzing all the time with that kind of energy. And it is just an extraordinary thing that we get to experience as a people. Who else? Yes.
So Erica talked about she just moved to the city a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you find people? How do you find your people? How do you find these things? So could there be something like reverse HOA? Instead of telling you what to do, told you what it was.
So anybody who was in this room in the last hour heard Join Philly? Join Philly is an incredible resource for exactly that. And it's not the only one, but it is the first one that comes to mind. There was another hand over here. Yes?
So my neighbor lives in the city, so that comes with the positive that everything is close by, but it comes with the trade-off that everything is congested, so he misses the green spaces that he could have got outside the city, or walkable trails and things like that.
I think that's that is an ongoing issue here. You see other cities navigating that, right? Like I think Detroit has done some really interesting work around, okay, we've got a lot of vacant lots, we've got fragmented neighborhoods. Can we sort of like help recluster the residential areas and then repurpose the vacant space to good effect, right? I don't think it's as extreme here, but and we have all this gentrification happening, which is complicating things. But yeah, there's we do okay and we could do better. Who else? Yeah.
Like my neighbor described, like Halloween growing up, history is what's described as a candy gauntlet, and so like just like making that vibe and like how can that be like expanded to other things?
Wait, you're all are gonna have to say more about that candy gauntlet.
Well, we sit outside, we sip wine, get a little bit lit, and give 10 houses worth of candy to every kid who comes by. They come by more than once, they just change their masks. And I recognize some of them as like coming from 10 sport, and we're at 12. It's like, you know how much it costs?
Yeah. We used to, when my kids were little and we had a house in the suburbs, we would give out the full-size pixie sticks. Like we'd go to Sam's Club and buy boxes of them, like the commercial ones. We would get hundreds of kids. We had hundreds of kids. They're just mainlining that stuff. Maybe one more? Yeah.
We talked about mutual aid, and he's working with some organizations to sort of help the community and having that be like decentralized, but also it sounds like they can do sort of rapid response because there's all these little pieces, and so having more of that and having more of that sort of everywhere that we can take care of each other kind of thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I think that's actually like one of the few really clear positives from COVID is that like we kicked up mutual aid and this capacity for rapid response and mutual aid has just blossomed over the past 5 years. It's been a great thing to see. And like in that previous session in here, Touch Grass, we were talking about enshittification and we were talking about like, how algorithmically constrained we are by the services we use, right? But there's also space out there for us to use tools, even if we have to build them ourselves, that take advantage of everything we know and have learned about mutual aid, about emergent systems, and to do these things for ourselves. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you all for sharing these things. I hope that your individual conversations were really fruitful and have given you some things to think about when you go back to your home and your community. So we have checked all our boxes. My last piece of business is to tell you my dream related to this. The 50th anniversary is coming up of the publication of the book in August of 2027. And for several months now, I've been curating this little Google sheet for myself and talking with friends. And I have this bonkers dream that it would be cool to create 50 new patterns that are linked to the graph in the book and also relate to each other and would sort of be an overlay of things like mutual aid, community fridges, block parties, all of the other stuff of day-to-day life. Because as Joe was saying when we were talking during the exercise, a lot of the book is about infrastructure. So you're going to read things in there about like how you should physically construct your house, what orientation it should be to like maximize your use of the sun based on your like latitude, right? So there's some stuff like that. What's a little bit here and there in the book that deserves to be lifted up and expanded is that there's also patterns like dancing in the streets, right? Which is like an incredible, extraordinary, essential community activity. We're doing it with greased light poles. And I love that for us, and I would not change that in a million years. But there are so many things like that where it's like, if I have one frustration with the book, it's like it sort of goes in and out of that mode of like, it touches on some of these like social practices and rituals, but it doesn't go all in on that. So my dream related to a pattern language is to like intentionally add that to the experience of the book and the community that's around it. So if that is something that's remotely of interest to you, grab a handout, reach out to me. We're going to figure out how to do this. We've got 22 months to make something happen. And in the spirit of mutual aid rapid response, that's a huge amount of time to do a thing. So, with all of that said, I just want to thank you for coming. It's been amazing to be with you. As I said at the beginning, I'm a Quaker, and this is a quote from George Fox, who is one of the founders of Quakerism, that says, "Be patterns, be examples in all countries, places, islands." He was from England. "Nations, wherever you come, then you will come to walk cheerfully over the world." And that is my wish for all of you, that you will walk cheerfully in your community and be a pattern and an example so that we can all have the beloved communities we deserve. Thank you so much. Have a great day.